Mother speaks. I am Great Mother, Holy Spirit, Yin, Divine Mother, Cosmic Womb, Deep Space, the Moon, Dark Matter, the Void, the Black Hole, Atar, Isis, Diana, Mommy Ishtar, Kali, Mammy, and Mother Mary. Hello, welcome to Great Mother Speaks. I'm Tammy Taylor, your manifestation muse, and today,
you know, when you're learning an entirely different culture and you don't speak the language, there's a surrender to knowing there's a limitation to how much you're going to actually be able to absorb. Because the nature of learning and the authenticity of integrating the information is compromised. And so as a result, you just make a truce with yourself that I'm going to get out of this what I need to get out of this. And that is the truce that I've made with myself with Vedic astrology. And so I say that because it's timely with this Pisces full moon in Shatabisha Nakshatra. I always remember Shatabisha Nakshatra because Nakshatra, see, there we go. It's different culture, different language, and, you know, struggling to pronounce and everything. But Spirit always gives us what we need. And what I need is to remember the essential elemental truth of these constellations. There are 27 of them. Shatabisha is at the end of Aquarius and the beginning of Pisces. And so we're in a Pisces full moon in both the Western and the Vedic. But it's important in the Vedic to look at the nakshatras, particularly when we are talking about the moon. It's a lunar astrology, and these are lunar-based constellations. I always remember Shatabisha because when I first heard it, it sounded to me like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, those of you who are raised in the Baptist tradition like I was, you might recall who they are. They were the three wise brothers who would not bow down to the king of Babylon. And they were rewarded as a result. This is a great planetary fear at this time, to stand in one's truth of their divinity. And this nakshatra is such a powerful one because it speaks to the reward for doing so. And if you recall, you know, they ended up being really high respected officials of Babylon because their God was leading them through all the trials and tribulations of not bowing down to this king. And everybody was like, what? He's going to kill you. He threw them into a fiery furnace. You know, he didn't just throw them in jail, or he didn't just, have a death sentence where they were killed in some, way, that everybody could watch and be, even put on a cross like Jesus Christ. He threw them in a furnace, and Jesus came and walked them out. And so, all of this, we understand as mythology because we are so deep into what Great Mother says is and in translation from the Vedas too, is called, the Sea of Forgetfulness. It is not a judgment or condemnation. We came into this world for a reason. We are under the veil of forgetfulness for a reason. Forgetfulness of what? Of our divinity, in order for us to learn how to use our power. As a good parent, you give your child, a little leash, a little bit at a time as they demonstrate their ability to maintain their lives. As long as they're safe, well, then we can loosen up a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And that's how we grow. It's the same thing with us, as above, so below. So this nakshatra is all about feeling that power. And we're in an age where we're being so blessed with so many powerful downloads that if you are not in tune with your divinity, it's freaking people out. And so they're using it in different ways. For example, we were talking about an MDT support group about how all of the mass murders and things that are going on, it's really about a confusion that people are having internally. It has nothing to do with the external world. That's our first impulse, is to externalize everything that's happening. Oh, it's because of this, it's because of politics, it's because of that. No, 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 no. All war begins within. And the inner war is, as Great Mother, through the Great Mother Speaks Oracle deck, guides us through a rebirth and a regeneration of our divinity, through the release of MDT identity, the shame, blame, and guilt of the abandonment and abuse of our birth mothers. We have to, as individuals, undergo this internal rebirth. And what is rebirth? Rebirth is a death of the old self. And so just like everything else, instead of sitting with that, we go into addiction, which is just another word for pain avoidance. We go into drug addiction, sex addiction, or just addiction to trying to control others, which the ultimate expression of that is murderous behavior, whether it is through the spoken word or through action, which we can also use as a very powerful, loving tool, action and the spoken word, to uplift and to encourage through the signs and symbols, just as the signs and symbols through this Vedic astrology, whether I understand Hindu or I understand Sanskrit or not, Spirit is going to give me what it needs to give me in order to use me as a vehicle to speak to whoever needs to hear what it's saying. For those who do want to go through this rebirthing process and going through the fire, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did, they had to prove to themselves that they were worthy to rule Babylon. They were just humble believers in God. And that's what is meant by the meek shall inherit the earth. The humility goes through an experience of gaining the wisdom of knowing that it has a value to the world. And that's what this transition from the Piscean age of the Christ consciousness into the Aquarian age, which is about embodying the Christ consciousness as individuals. We live Christ consciousness as individuals. We live what he taught as individuals. In other words, we dance to the beat of our own drum, just like he did. He just showed us an example of how he did it, how he embraced his divinity and believed in his God, despite the what they call them, the Sadducees, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were against him. The high priests were against him and his teaching of the great Father. And so we are coming into that, and Great Mother, Father God are injecting us and the planet with the power to do it. But if we don't know what we're being injected with, we are interpreting it as fear, because we are so filled with fear due to this sea of forgetfulness that we're in, that has got us in this addiction to external manifestation of Great Mother, Father God, as opposed to the internal. So this is all about us connecting with that during this season. The full moon is in Pisces in both the Western and in the Vedic astrology. And as we know, Pisces is the teetering, tottering slope that we walk between delusion and enlightenment, between self-deception and self-awareness. The Leo new moon, Great Mother, did an extended introduction about what this season leading up to January 2020 is all about. So if you want to check that out, there is a link in the information box below. This full moon, Great Mother wants to bring our attention to the Vedic aspect of this season with this full moon in Pisces, in the Vedic and in the Western. Now, what's interesting is that in the Vedic astrology, Neptune, as opposed to in the Western astrology, being in Pisces at this time, creating a great deal of delusionment and difficulty with that dance, with awareness. In the soul astrology, or the cosmic astrology as opposed to the geocentric, earth-centric ego astrology that is basically the tropical astrology that's focused on our egoic experience, our ego reaction to life. In the soul astrology, we're actually looking at how, why, when, and for what purpose the soul incarnated. Neptune here is in Aquarius, and so this period of time has to do with what the collective consciousness is undergoing in terms of its internal dance between illusion and awareness around humanity, around what it wants to collectively contribute on a soul level to this transitional phase between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age. This is why this particular period is so intense. So what Great Mother wants to focus on in this introduction to your full moon Pisces reading is the idea that you, from a soul perspective, are looking toward the future at this particular time, or you're looking in the past at this particular time, at yourself, at your experience at this particular time. And you're either saying, wow, I am really living up to my greatest soul potential at this time to free myself from the bondage, from the attachment to forgetfulness of my divinity, forgetfulness of my soul essence, forgetfulness of my birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. I am releasing myself from that forgetfulness. I'm doing my level best as a conscious being to do that. Or I am overwhelmed by the challenges of doing that. And either way, Great Mother is inviting us to receive the eternal grace and mercy that is available to us, particularly as the planet is experiencing the disorder of mama drama trauma, which this channel focuses on to heal. Mama drama trauma being that condition in which the mother projects unhealed aspects of herself onto the child, causing emotional and or physical trauma. And in cases where she's unwilling, unable, and unavailable, she may have transitioned to heal her own MDT. Loving detachment is necessary for the child to live a happy, healthy, and whole life. In other words, for us to fully embrace our birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. Living in loving detachment is necessary to do that. So the Great Mother Speaks Oracle deck was channeled for us to have a daily practice of releasing ourselves from that bondage of attachment to the toxic mama experience, the forgetfulness that the drama engenders about our divinity, and the trauma that we experience as a result, the dissociative experience from our soul that keeps us in bondage. So the opportunity this full moon is to, from the tropical perspective, look at the harvest of the year. This has been a very intense year with Saturn and Jupiter in retrograde and the eclipses that we've had in the most powerful in Vedic astrology nodal position of Gemini in the North Node and Sagittarius in the South, because it has to do with that human intelligence of the ego in the North Node evolving through awareness and the release of old attachments to old ways of connecting with the divinity, with that Sagittarius in the South, based on experience. Wisdom is based on experience, what we learn through our own experience, as opposed to the intelligence of Mercury, which rules Gemini, that is based on an ability, an ego ability to figure things out. And so they work well together when understood. But when wisdom is held as the greater virtue, then we actually are evolving. We actually are growing. And so with Sagittarius being in the South Node, conjunct Saturn, conjunct Pluto, we have this opportunity to do a tremendous amount of release of old spiritual beliefs and practices that no longer work for us, such as toxic beliefs about sin, the idea that we are separate from God. That is a very old religious teaching. And it no longer serves us as we move into an Aquarian age that is about being very clear about our divinity. Now, speaking of clarity about divinity, not everyone survives deity initiation. And that is what we're talking about. Let us be clear. We are talking about divinity initiation, an initiation into a conscious ego-soul alignment. So this full moon is an illumination with regard to where you are with that. Great Mother wants you to be very clear about where you are in relationship to that, in relationship to your soul and what your soul wants to do at this particular time about that in your life as it relates to mama drama trauma, the foundation of all relationships in your life. In our relationships, just like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, who is the poster child of mama drama trauma, each card is based on a scene in the Wizard of Oz. Along that yellow brick road journey, that hero's journey to embracing our divinity, that journey, that rites of passage to deity initiation. Because, of course, when we return home, we return to peace. We return to our true self. So this return to self requires a rebirth. It requires this dark night of the soul, which for us, being mama drama trauma, most of the planet, most people won't admit it. It is a taboo subject. But during the Aquarian age, it will become more and more prominent as an issue to be addressed. There's a reason there's an increase in suicides. There's a reason there's an increase in drug addiction. All of these are just forms of pain avoidance. And this is what is meant by not everyone survives deity initiation. Many people do not believe because they do not know that they're divine beings. They think because of the attachment to forgetfulness, attachment to the illusion of this experience, and we incarnate into this material experience in order to have the veil over our eyes, as Dorothy had the veil, the believing that Oz was the god of all gods, until she took the witch's broom, which taught her that she had the power to take her power back from an idea of an externalized God. Great Mother, Father, God is us, within us. And this is a scary thought for a culture from a planetary collective consciousness that believes it's separate from God. That's a scary thought, let alone something to integrate into one's consciousness. So we are what the Christ called a peculiar people. We know that we are in this world, but we are not of it. And so this is a little spoken word that is payment and homage to what Great Mother is inviting us to do in terms of looking at this placement of where we are. Consciousness ascends and consciousness, it forgets. We evolve. The Kundalini awakens and the Kundalini goes to sleep. We are living, breathing beings who we have periods of active conscious awareness and growth and periods of rest and fallowness, just like the soil. So that's why we learn first and foremost about our divinity identity, that we are dearly loved children of the great Mother, Father, God, who are never judged, condemned for that. Because just like the seasons, that's just like saying, in the Northern Hemisphere, we're, slowly moving into fall, although the planet is heating up and is on fire and all of these things that are happening because of our forgetfulness. There's no judgment or condemnation. There is awareness. There's a difference. And it's a very important distinction to make. There is awareness that what we're doing is either fortifying the experience of our divinity or it is detracting from it. And we get to make the free will choice. Some say, and particularly in Vedic astrology, that we do not have free will. But it is said within the context, I would hope, I understand the belief of no free will within the context of we are given the choice in our experience. We get to experience making choices so that we know if we choose to go into the direction of what does not reinforce our divinity, such as burning down the rainforest and therefore setting our entire environmental equilibrium off, is not beneficial. We get to experience that so that we learn it. Again, wisdom being the hallmark of divinity. We learn through experience, which is why we're not judged or condemned. It doesn't make sense to believe in a God that judges and condemns you for coming here to have experience. How can you have experience if you don't get to choose? So in this life, we do get to choose. It's just that in the arc of eternity, there is just one consciousness, and that is the consciousness of love. And that is what they're talking about. And since it's difficult for most people to even grasp what is being discussed here, they just go ahead and jump to the end of the story that there is no free will. It's all, love. But step by step, yes, within lifetimes, that's how we gain experience. That's how we gain wisdom about what love is. We have to learn it through experience. Great Mother's inviting us to recognize at this particular stage in our lives with this Pisces full moon in both the Western and in the Vedic, what we are choosing. Are we choosing to go away from our divinity, feeling and experiencing being dearly loved, never judged or condemned, or left alone? Or are we continuing to engender those experiences, such as mama drama trauma, in particular here with your full moon reading, that you are detracting from that experience? Which one is it? Because within this season, there are a lot of transits that are being discussed. And one specifically with the Vedic, just like Great Mother in her extended introduction, with the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in the Western astrology that has captured the imagination of astrologers. In the Vedic astrology, we are having the Gemini move from Purnavasu into Ardra Nakshatra. And we're having Sagittarius move into Mula, which is the center of the cosmos. It's the nakshatra that is the center. It's the heart, the cosmic heart of the cosmos. It is Great Mother. It is the primordial womb. And so the primordial womb is going to receive for us what we are willing, ready, and able to release. And so that's why Great Mother is wanting us to know at this particular time, those of us who are working with releasing mama drama trauma, the blame, shame, and guilt, feeling the cause, feeling that we can cure, feeling that somehow we can control mama drama trauma, and releasing all of that dysfunction is going to be tremendously supported, especially as we have in November Jupiter moving into Sagittarius as well. So lots and lots of cosmic support for us. The spoken word that I would like to share with you is this: child, mother, father, teacher, parent, scholar, a pence, a pound, a dollar, a month, a day, an hour. Years, decades, scores. Work, hobbies, chores. A house, a window, a door. Beginning, middle, end. Whole, half, empty. Physiology, biology, anatomy. Plants, seeds, soil. Sun, rain, earth. The planetary galactic search. Olmec, Toltec, Aztec, Cholula, Pyramid, Sphinx. Ego, soul, spirit, the initiation, communication, conduit. Maya 2012, the whole world, into it. Crazy, sane, normal, casual, everyday, formal. The known, unknown, and unknowable. Mystery, intrigue, certainty. Past, present, future. Galaxy, planet, light year. Stellar procession, sacred. Man, woman, offspring. Bound, insecure, free. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Night, noon, morning. Sacred, science, faith. Time, space, location. You are blessed, wanted, needed. Breathe, inspire, intention, purpose, reason. Cave, hut, house. Master, worker, slave. Moon, stars, sun. 3, 2, 1. Eternal divine self. Present, future, past. First, late, last. Dawn, day, sunset. And these are your Pisces. Shatabisha full moon readings. Hello, Leo moon sign people. The sun is still in your sign in the Vedic. So you want to be sure to check the links below to look at your moon sign. If you're looking for it for the Western, the sun is in Virgo. And so the light that the moon is reflecting is going to tell you a lot about which one you're listening to, your tropical moon sign or your Vedic moon sign. Of course, Great Mother speaks directly to the Vedic moon sign, but of course you're going to get whatever message she has for you through your moon sign that you most resonate with. So if it's Virgo sun at this time, that light that's being reflected is very strong in terms of this self-criticism, the self-judgment and condemnation that Great Mother is pointing to, that we really call out of the shadows as an opportunity to be more self-aware. In other words, choosing self-awareness over that kind of overly critical, analytical Virgo energy, which is very useful as we evolve in self-love and spiritual independence, which is the soul contract of MDT. So it's very useful for discernment and discerning what is true, the clarity, the balance, the confirmation that comes through from Great Mother. Virgo energy is very useful in separating the wheat from the chaff, which again, in the Western astrology, it is very important to look at what the sun is doing. It's sun-oriented astrology, and the sun right now is beginning to move further away from the earth, and we are at the harvest full moon. So if that's resonating for you, Leo moon sign people, as very strong, well, Great Mother's message to you is to really get in alignment with that energy of discernment. If it's the Vedic that's really resonating with you, she's still pointing to looking at that tendency to be very self-critical as a result of MDT, shame, blame, and guilt, in order to be more self-aware. And the awareness has to do more profoundly with the Vedic Leo moon sign of your divinity, of you being a dearly loved divine child of the Great Mother, Father God, who's never judged, condemned, or left alone. And The colors are wonderful with our new revised deck. Be sure to get your free copy as long as they last. I hope I still have a few as I'm saying this, because they're being sent out during this harvest moon season until the end of September for you to be able to review before the tutorial starts November 3rd to December 22nd as a gift from Great Mother. You have strong root chakra energy here. We have 4 root chakra cards in your spread with Pachamama, Birth Mother, Isis, and Acknowledge. All 6 suits spell out the word aspire, because we aspire to live in loving detachment from MDT, shame, blame, and guilt. That mentality, we grieve that. And so that's the 6-step grieving process. And the first step is acknowledge. We must acknowledge MDT or release MDT denial. You have 4 root chakra cards. That means that you're working a lot this full moon with releasing issues around MDT denial. And so that critical voice of making you feel unloved, judged, condemned, and left alone is a voice that is causing you to feel a certain way that Great Mother wants you to recognize as a divine child. You have the power to change your thoughts about those feelings. Remember, emotions are feelings plus thoughts. And so we can be swept away by them, which we are when we are in our root chakra as children. Root chakra is our grounding, our foundation, our sense of security, safety in the world, that tribe, that religion that we're taught, whether it's in a formal religious institution or faith, or if it is just a particular patriotism or whatever it is that we're taught to believe is God in our lives, is the root chakra, because that grounds us in the earth. And so this energy being inculcated with MDT is a very strong program. So this full moon in Pisces is an energy that loosens it up with the water, the oceanic powers, the Neptunian powers in the Western astrology, and of course the Jupiterian powers in the Vedic astrology. Jupiter rules Pisces. You have 1 second chakra card, which is ruled by Jupiter, the second chakra. What rules the root chakra? Let's start with your shadow position. You may not realize that at this particular time, you are leaving a bad situation behind. You might have some question about a relationship, particularly for you, Leo, since this really has to do with 8th house energy. This moon, it is about a very profound transformation as it relates to your marriage or commitments that you've made to other people. Those kind of peripheral relationships with regard to your spouse or your significant other or your children, exes, in-laws, what you're getting from them. And if you're not getting the love that you need, which MDT teaches us that the love that we need is not forthcoming from our mother, so we have to learn to give it to ourselves. You're in this process and you don't realize it. It's in your shadow position. You're in this processing of realizing that you're not getting what you need from these peripheral groups, which are impacting your primary relationship with your spouse, your primary relationship with your child. There's some influences that are making you feel very ungrounded, very insecure. And so Great Mother is encouraging you to, if you haven't already, maybe you don't realize that you have been spending more time out in nature. Maybe this summer has been a really important time that more than usual you have been near the water, or you've been wanting to go near the water, or somehow you've been finding yourself outside doing things. If you haven't, Great Mother's encouraging you to connect with the ground, the sea, trees, and fairies around you to ground you. You're not getting that from your environment. And as a result, there may be a need to really own the places in your life where you're okay. Again, if you're not already doing that, some of you may already be connecting with areas in your life that are supportive and not going toward those areas or trying to demand from people to give you the love that you need when they're incapable of doing so, or unwilling or unavailable in many cases to do so. That you are gravitating, you're moving along those areas, as we see with Sulis, the wellness card. Is heart chakra energy. And so opening yourself to the reality that you have everything that you need within you. That is the reality, and connecting with nature will bring you in alignment with that. If you are doing that already, those critical voices have been calming down and you are coming into that awareness. Because in the recent past, because many of you have already been doing this, the Ra card is showing us this third eye waxing gibbous moon card of your gifts, your talents, and abilities. That Leo energy of sharing your gifts, talents, and abilities has been rewarded in some way. There have been situations, people, or just within yourself that you've realized that you do have everything within yourself, and that self-appreciation has been rewarding, or because you have been gravitating toward a higher energy that does appreciate you, because you're coming into a higher sense of self-appreciation, you are sensing that, you are feeling that, you are experiencing that. Many of you're experiencing the appreciation of others that hasn't come from where you would have thought it would come from. It hasn't come from those family associations that you thought it would come from. And within your family, it has come from some associations that you never thought you would get the support from. For example, if you've been working with MDT for a while, and I'm thinking of a couple of people with Leo Moon that now that you have been releasing denial around the shame, blame, and guilt of having to be attention seeking to get the support from other people, you've relaxed that and realized that the people that really are paying you attention in your family and giving you love are people that you haven't noticed before because you were wanting it specifically from your mother, or you were wanting it specifically from an older sister, or you were wanting it specifically from an uncle, or a niece or something. And now that you've opened yourself up, you're like, Grandma's been there the whole time. My dad's mom has always been really, really cool. And now we talk and we go out to lunch and I went to visit her, and, that kind of thing going on, which is awesome. This is the dance of Lilith. Your gut chakra energy is really coming through beautifully here. That processing energy, that emotional processing gut chakra energy of personal power. Also waxing gibbous. A lot of waxing gibbous moon energy here having to do with revising, editing, just really fine-tuning where you are in your healing journey moving forward. The personal power card is the dance that you're doing. You are realizing that your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole is a real thing, and you do have the power to choose your perspective about your feelings. We can't stop our feelings, and we don't want to stop our feelings. We don't want to be in that kind of egoic controlling state, because that is the definition of addiction. We want to allow ourselves to feel what we feel, but then activate the awareness in terms of what we're going to think about those feelings. And so you definitely expect yourself with the Ishtar full moon second chakra card to be able to prostitute yourself, as we all do in the physical realm. We exchange something of ourselves, of our gifts, of our talents, of our abilities in order to survive in this physical world. The question only is whether we do that in a way that sells us out and is disrespecting, self-abandoning, self-abusing, or we do it in a way in which we stand our ground within our birthright as a divine child to be happy, healthy, and whole. And so as you dance with your personal power, your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole, what you're doing in standing your ground is saying, hey, this is what I value. This is what's meaningful for me now. This Pisces in the 8th house is showing you how your values have changed. Your beliefs have changed. Your memories about things are shifting, and you are seeing things from a whole different perspective because you're growing and you are exchanging your gifts and your talents and abilities in new ways, not in ways that may, demand or manipulate attention from others, but in ways in which others are just intrigued and fascinated by the just preponderance of intelligence that's coming forward in your ability to lead emotionally and to say the right thing at the right time and to share how you feel creatively in the right way. And so that kind of energy that you are emitting right now has created a synergy. Gildeptus is third eye full moon energy. You are definitely in the state of receiving clear downloads about all of this and just living it. There's not even a thought about it, which is why, in the shadow position, Pachamama, this root chakra card to connect with the ground, the sea, the trees, the fairies. It's just like that when you're laying on the beach and you're just feeling the wind and the waves and the sun, or you are hiking up a mountain and you're breathing the fresh air and you're feeling your muscles, loosen and tighten and pull and walk. It's not a thought. It's just the body mind is synergistically working to breathe that eternal breath of life and to receive what the effervescence of the ethereal breath is bringing to you in the moment. And we get such insights in those moments, don't we? Just very simple, loving things that remind us why we incarnated and why life is so enjoyable. That's what's really operating with you right now. And so what needs to be let go of in the let go position is third eye energy. This beautiful lavender is all Ajna third eye energy that you're having here. All these really great third eye downloads matching this root chakra energy here. And so just kind of pulling everything in and emancipating yourself from this insecurity, the sense of unsafety, of MDT, blame, shame, and guilt, and releasing that through this now living and loving detachment from all of that. It's been a part of your experience, but the Shiva energy that's activated now with Gemini and Rahu and Sagittarius and Ketu and all of the changes that are going on right now, specifically with Gemini moving into Ardra Nakshatra by the end of this month during what will be the new moon in Virgo. There's this emancipation. You're coming into this divine power, as a result of working with your personal power, your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. That divine power and peace of your divinity that allows you to own that birthright is where the let go energy is. This is the let go position. What needs to be let go is any and everything that prevents this emancipation. And you may not know that you're already in that process. So Great Mother's letting you know that, yes, those little niggling feelings, those little things in the back of your mind about, oh, well, I'm spending less and less time with these family members and I am hanging out more with grandma, for example. Or, I'm noticing that, the toxicity around, my exes and my kids is really waning off because I'm more focused on the kids and what they need because I'm healing myself, and it's not so much about them. Because they have mama drama trauma too. I didn't know that's what really bonded us and attracted us to each other. And I also didn't know that's what would ultimately pull us apart. But I'm healing mine and they're not healing theirs. And hey, loving detachment from those who are unwilling, unable, and unavailable to heal their MDT, just like mama. We just lovingly detach. No judgment, no tea, no shade. We don't judge and condemn ourselves, and we don't judge, condemn others. We are simply aware, and our divinity operates from that awareness. And so in the center of your spread, you're fully expecting with Demeter, this full moon gut chakra card, to process your feelings. You ain't scared. You're just like, bring it on. I want to feel it all. And this is exactly what you're doing at this time. You're doing it in such an empowered way. You're expecting for your clarity to come in ways that are going to balance you, in ways that are going to confirm who and what you are, that is going to serve your ability to share your gifts, your talents, and your abilities, whatever they may be, in new and refreshing ways for yourself, not just for others, but this is a new path for you. And you're like, bring it on, let's go, the singing, let's follow the yellow brick road for real. So this is really, really exciting, especially since your hidden influence position is Maya, another third eye card. This is the new moon third eye card. And so, of course, the third eye is ruled by the moon. And this is new moon energy. So this is very, very deep insight. You don't realize that you are, again, getting these insights by following your intuition to connect with Great Mother in very natural, healing ways. And you are really, really letting go of illusions of what other people should be or how they should be. You are living in loving detachment. You are seeing things for what they are. And this is a hidden influence because what Great Mother is saying is you don't realize how powerful that is for you to be at this stage in your life where you're doing this so effortlessly. And she wants you to recognize that you've come a long way on your path already. There was a time where, these things would not have been something that you would have been willing to look at, to acknowledge at all, because you did think that you had to have these relationships in the way that they were to fulfill your need for self-love. You didn't know that you had everything within yourself, but since your heart is opening to that and has opened to that more greatly than it ever has before, she just wants you to realize that you are in this very deep space of connection with your soul, and it's a very powerful hidden influence in your life. And we know that because in the embodiment position, what you are embodying at this time is another third eye card. You have 4 third eye cards, 5, which is the dominant energy of your reading. Yeah, you have 4 root chakra cards, one that we've gone over, Pachamama, in your shadow position, but Ra, gifts, talents, abilities, Godeptus, the synergy, emancipation, letting go of all things that keep you from freeing yourself up from this loving detachment, just choosing how you're thinking about things and accepting your feelings. You have Maya here, and now Maya in the position of embodiment, justice, just weighing your heart with the feather. Weighing our heart with the feather as the goddess Maya, our big sister, the archetype that is all about what is true for me in this moment is what brings me balance. And it changes. It changes. That's why we have the scales. Because whenever we need to assess that, we weigh that. We weigh what is in our hearts and what thought is most healing for us at the time. Not delusionment, which Pisces full moon can do, but the distinction between self-judgment and criticism and awareness. Just being aware that, okay, now that I'm in this place, it is kind of strange because I did used to have this dynamic with my ex, and the kids were always in the middle. And now that I'm more relaxed, I'm noticing that my kids are really accustomed to that power play, and they're still on that. And I'm like, look, it's not even about that. When you're dealing with justice, things turn out in ways that you don't expect when you begin on your healing journey. And what often needs to happen with third eye, first quarter moon energy, which is about making a conscious choice, is that we consciously need to choose a new way to interact with people. And so just as there's a new way in that example of interacting with your ex and loving detachment, there's a loving detachment with the child as well, in terms of recognizing, again, not judgment, not condemnation of self or the child, but awareness that this is what has happened. They are used to doing this power play and pitting us against each other. And I didn't even notice it. I was so caught up into being mad at him or her. I didn't even notice how this was affecting our children. And now they are in this conditioned state of they think this is the way it is. I need to articulate that to them. I need to, for whatever age appropriate description, will let them know where I am now consciously. That, hey, in the past, I know that this is how you and I would interact and talk about your dad or your mom, but I don't feel that way anymore. I have forgiven them. I have forgiven myself, and I really want all of us to move forward. And I am so sorry that I was in a place of so much anger, but I was hurt. I was really hurt about that. And I'm okay now, and I want all of us to be okay. And you might have to say that over and over and over for the same amount of time that the conditioned behavior was done. That is where the loving detachment practice really comes in. And we get to have such a magical experience along our yellow brick road, because then we are really going into some really supportive energy with Great Mother, where she can heal generations through us. Possible outcome of this is Sophia, heart chakra, inner wisdom new moon card. This energy is all about that Libra Taurus new moon. So we have a Libra new moon coming up in the Vedic after the Virgo new moon next. And this is all about being able to trust your inner voice. And we can only do that once it is cultivated in a loving way to embrace our divinity. So when our inner voice reflects the language, the tone, and the approach of Great Mother, which is from the perspective of us being not weak, but resilient souls who are dearly loved, divine children, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone, unconditionally loved, then we can trust our inner voice. And that's very possible for you at this time, for you to really begin to trust, Leo moon sign people, that inner voice. You've been doing work around this that you may not be aware of, but just due to the fruits of your labor, you can see what your inner voice has been leading you to do, and you can judge accordingly. The arc from here to there, long term, is Isis energy. So when you determine where you are with that in terms of what's showing up in your life right now and how that makes you feel and your perspective about that, if you're still getting a lot of dissonance and a lot of angst about that, a great deal of self-mothering, full moon root chakra energy is needed. A lot of self-mothering is needed. A lot of unconditional self-loving behavior, non-judgment, non-condemnation, never feeling alone, just always asserting through the shift in thought in circumstances where you may be feeling alienated in the situation where your children still persist in that kind of behavior and they're not with you on your new path yet. Shifting the thought, realizing I have the power to create that dynamic. I certainly have the power to shift it, but I'm not going to impose as I have in the past, because I'm living in loving detachment. So let me do something now. Let me have a more self-loving thought now that I invite into my experience. That great mother loves me and they love my child. My child will be fine. This is not a crisis, because we are all divine, dearly loved children of the great mother, Father God, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone. That kind of internal self-mothering is really needed. And for most of you, it's really needed because your outcome card is acknowledge, which is the major arcana of the root chakra. It is about releasing that denial that MDT is still holding sway in your life in areas that you've not yet dealt with. And this full moon in Pisces will bring up areas in your life that still need reconciliation. You're not afraid of that. You are ready to accept your feelings and to process them. And you are also ready to do it with the intention of maintaining your internal peace. And that comes by accepting the MDT soul contract. As we see here is the acknowledge card. Balsamic moon energy is download energy. And you have, if you have not already, you will download the reality that we are here to experience MDT in order to evolve in self-love and spiritual independence, which is what your reading, Leo moon sign, is all about. Acknowledging this soul contract empowers us to release the illusions around our lives being anything other than a process of letting go of the mother we want in order to accept the one that we have, both our birth mother and great mother, the mother of all mothers. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, and liking. But above all, and most of all, remember, great mother loves you, and I do too.
Great mother speaks.